All right, happy Monday, everybody, and welcome to your daily lighting critique. So, we're starting off with Aaron. We've got his shot, and we were talking offline about how great it is that he's rendering every fifth frame. It's at half resolution-ish. Yeah, you said 550 or 540?
540,
Yeah, so it's right there in the title. Half resolution on fives, which means every fifth frame, which is great because you're able to turn around the sequence more quickly, but it does cause some problems like in Nuke. And in Nuke, what ends up happening is, I don't have an example of this, but like if you have every fifth frame, and then you accidentally like click in the timeline here to one of the frames in between, you actually like Nuke kind of loses its mind and will kind of look for that frame for a long period of time, and then just kind of like it takes a while for it to tell you that it can't find the frame, even though you know exactly that. One thing that you can do that kind of helps it that I found is that, and I just grabbed a read node here, is if you go into the read node, what you can see is like this missing frame indicator. So you can change that to either black or checkerboard. Checkerboard's good too because it pretty clearly demonstrates that there's not a frame there. And that seems to process a little bit faster. The other thing, actually, let me see if I have a file. Because we were also talking about this. Yeah, let me just open this one. So we were also talking about this in terms of like creating roto shapes on stuff. And no. And one of the things that that happens is like say you're working in a comp script, and like it usually doesn't happen in rotos. Those work pretty quickly. But like let's say you wanted to paint something, like let me just add a roto paint node here. And we'll see if this works. And one of the things that can happen is if you're like painting a bunch of stuff, it can actually, oh, this actually works pretty well. But what can happen lots of times is as you're painting on things, it can actually lag and be like super janky and super difficult to work with. So one of the things that I do, if that ever happens, is I'll just take the like the nodes that I need and actually create a brand new comp. Actually, I won't ever need those, just those. Let's say I'm just like rotoing just this RGB mat. Create a new comp. Let's see if it popped up somewhere. Copy and paste it in there, and then you can just paint in here. And then you can take, and then like once you're done with this, then you can take this node and copy it into the other one, and your workflow might actually be faster. So that can be useful for other things. So if you're ever doing any small tweak, like a paint, like you're painting something or you're rotoing something, and the interface is just slow, take your file into a new comp, and that's one little trick to speeding up your workflow a little bit. I'm trying to think of what else. But yeah, that's about it. Just because Nuke treats each session uniquely in its cache, so it just functions a little bit faster. I think that's about it. Okay, so let's take a look at the aesthetics here. So we've got your, let's take a look at the old version first. Cool. And we've got the updated version out. This, yeah, so this is rim light's playing a lot better. I know we were having issues with that for a while. Got the sRGB working, cool. This is looking pretty clean, and I actually like I really like the lighting on the grandpa. I think that's working out really well. I just want to adjust the lighting on the girl. I think we can improve on that there because I think he's got a good amount of darkness. And like this key to fill ratio is good. His shaping is good. His eye gets like, this reflection in his eye gets a little bit bright and a little distracting at a few frames. But I think overall, his overall look is feeling pretty good. For the girl, this opening works well. It's just like, she feels like the fill side on her face is just too dark. And let's see. Just because, like, And it's like, especially in this post here, because we kind of lose her facial features. And it's kind of because, like, from a storytelling standpoint, these are two opposing figures, right? You've got the grandpa who's like in a dark space with lots of contrast. So I'm like totally cool with some of his features going into darkness. But this little girl just plucked this flower. She's entering this space. She's bringing about a radiant energy about her. And we don't really want her going into too much darkness because, yes, she's entering his space, but she's still bringing her energy, which is a little bit brighter, a little bit airier, a little bit warmer, and that kind of thing. So we want to feel the difference between them, and not like, because right now they're kind of two opposing forces, and as they come together in the last shot, that can come together a little more cleanly. But for now, we really want to separate out, because this space is now kind of part of her world, and this space in here is part of his. So we want to make sure that hers is a little bit warmer and a little bit more lifted in its key to fill ratio. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. But I bet like he's looking really good. The image itself is looking really clean. Everything's starting to look a lot more balanced. It's just getting some more bounce and fill and less contrast back there in her.
Okay.
Good. All right. Let's slide over into. So now we've got the stills for today, and let's see. We'll start with Will. Start in the back and work our way forward. Right, Will. This looks a lot better. I'm glad you got the hair worked out. That was a bummer unfortunately, I just haven't worked with the Redshift hair shader much. But what you did is a totally reasonable thing, because I always think of those things as working really well in close-ups, but at a distance, swapping it out for a standard Redshift shader should totally work.
In the end, I think that the light wasn't working for the hair, was causing that issue.
Yeah.
But I think changing for the regular shader, I think at least for this particular shot, I think it's okay, right?
Yeah.
And it's a matter of tweaking a bit more, playing a bit more with the Redshift hair shader to learn how it works.
Yeah, I mean it's a good setup, and the other thing, and Adrian pointing this out, was just how the X-Gen information on that isn't always like it isn't included, so it needs to be generated. And he's also got it just baked out too. So it seems like you have the baked out hair, right?
That's in a Alembic file that he made available. So yes, if there was anything that XGen was doing, so that information was lost. So
yeah, I think the XGen's just generating the hair on the fly, and what his Alembic does is just bakes it out. So the XGen works out really well for moving fur. But like he's stationary, so it's totally fine. So the one thing that I wanted to mention about the look, because this is looking a lot better, is just adding more warmth to the area around him, and it's more about like that lamp producing more warmth around him, just because I want to create a little bit more contrast around his space and allow that lamp to throw more light around, and then a lot like, because I think the coolness of the surroundings is working really well. It just works better if there's something to complement it a little bit more strongly. And so I would just like to see that a little bit. The window looks good. I would even go a little bit more saturated in the blues outside the window. And then watch out for these very small specular highlights like these guys here. And then these are, so yeah. So just take a look at those, just because those are like, they'll, even in a still, they read as being kind of noisy.
Regarding the window, my only concern is that I didn't want to put too much light over there, because that will shift the attention inside, because the attention should be in the character,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what matters in scene. So if I start to illuminate too much back there, I think it will take
Yeah.
the attention away from him.
Totally,
So
totally agree. I just think like a small bit of because it just feels. It's just because like now this foreground area is very color. It's getting more colorful, and I just want like
yeah.
it can be this darkness. It's just like the way that I see that this is kind of gray and up here is kind of gray.
Yeah.
Just shift those
All
bluer.
right.
Yeah, it does. It
Cool,
doesn't.
cool.
It doesn't need more illumination really. It's more about the.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool. Let's see. So Tristan is not here, so we will actually. I'll mention Tristan's really quick because I think this is looking really good, and everything's working out well. I'm just wondering if we can get, and you can totally say no to this, obviously, but I was looking at the plane, and I was just wondering if we could either get or read more detail in it, just because it's. There's like a bunch of fine detail in all of these elements across the room. Maybe but just like with the plane itself, it feels like pretty broad and just blue. And if that's the design of it, that's totally fine. I was just wondering if, like picking up a little detail on the side or something like that, would be helpful for it. I don't know if I don't know if you guys agree with that or not. I'll open that up. It's just like one of those like. It just because like looking at these maps, there's like detail around the edges. There's detail in the books, like these frames, this highlight here, and then you get to the plane itself, which is our focus, and we lose that. It's more simplified, and I feel like if that's the center of attention, we may just want a little bit more detail on it. But other than that, I think it's great. And if you guys shake your head no in the windows, then he can get that as feedback as well. So. But literally everything else about it, I think, is looking stunning. I think it looks really great. Okay, I'll leave that up to you, Tristan. You can do with that as you may. If you think that note is dumb, I will happily put this in the Hall of Fame because I think it's a really, really beautiful job. All right, Mindy. I thought I saw Mindy here. Yes, Mindy is here. Mindy, hello. I don't know if you can speak.
Hi.
Hi. How's it going?
Good. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So I was watching Soul this weekend with my son, and for like the fourth time or however many times we watched it, and there's so much like this reminds me so much of a setup for that film. Like there's a lot of dapple, and especially like there's a conversation between, it's right before they're gonna switch places with. The story is confusing, so I don't know how to describe it. But like, they're about to switch places when he's talking to the cat, and they're sitting on the stoop, and there's actually a lot of like gobo light. And I was thinking about your image because the dapple kind of falls across his face as well. But one of the things that I really, really, really resonated with that because it was later in the day. They were meeting at like 6:30 because again, in animated films, everything happens at sunrise, and at magic hour, nothing happens in the middle of the day, or very few things. But for that, I think the biggest thing that you can add is just is more warmth overall, and just like really, really embrace this idea that you've got late in the day sun, which is warmer. You've got everything other than the foliage. Everything in this space is orange, that orangey like brick, right? Mm-hmm. And so using that as a real opportunity to get some more warmth bouncing around in here, especially on like the fill side of her face a little bit, and just really feeling that. In fact, let's just go ahead and I meant to. It was a little bit of a crazy morning. I meant to pull this up. Let's actually just go ahead and take a look because I think that's not what I meant to say. Screenshot Soul. It usually shows up. Yeah, let's take a screenshot of there. I'm gonna say film still.
Oh.
Yeah. Like there's this kind of look. Yes. Sorry.
It's not.
Yeah. Let's see if there's more in here. Actually, one of the things that you can do with this, tools, color, just pick something a little bit warmer. So yeah. So some of this stuff. This actually. Because this is kind of at the end too. Because of course everything happens late in the day. Actually, but that's a terrible color representation. Anyway, I'll find it. I'll send it over to you. We can take a look at it tomorrow. But really, I can even just pull up the film here, but I don't know how legal that is. But like really kind of like if you can take a look at that sequence. It's towards the end of the film. Like I said, I'll make a note here I'll find it and I'll post it to the forum later. And really just kind of think of the color palette in there and just like really embrace the warmth of the scene.
Okay, yeah, sounds good.
Sounds good. Okay, cool. Cool. All right, Kat. Very good job with the position of this light. That is exactly what I was kind of looking for, and being like offset a little bit. It's creating more shaping on the face. That's
cool beans.
Yeah, it's really looking great. We've got more of a rim light on the finger. I think that's looking really well. I do think, because I'm looking at this. And I'm trying to, I guess it works out well. Maybe we should just see it in motion the next time it comes through. Because I was thinking about the balance between this light and the light back here. And the fact, like, I guess because I almost want, even though this may not necessarily be true, I do want the table light to have a stronger influence on him than the window light. Like I just want, because like that's where the emotion's really building up from. And and then let's see. I do think that this could potentially even go a little bit brighter. Let's play around with this. Maybe even somewhere up in like this region.
Okay.
In terms of.
Yeah, I think.
Just kind of blowing out that edge a little bit. I'm sorry, you gonna say something?
Yeah, I had the light on his face a bit brighter, but it was kind of blowing out the skin, so I'm gonna have to tweak with that because I didn't want it to be. It was like I was tweaking with it. I'm like, this is a bit too much, so I pulled it back a little bit.
Do you have?
But I can.
Do you have subsurface scattering on the skin?
Yeah, I think that's why he's got blotchies on the right hand side.
Yeah, because it's
where the bright is. Yeah.
Yeah, because like I'm looking here and like that's what it looks like when it blows out. It's just. Trying to think how we can get more shaping on that skin. I guess
I actually pushed up the subsurface scattering, so I was trying to make the shaping on the arm less less harsh. So I've been tinkering with all of the things going, and then I was like, now this is part of it too was when I actually was having some issues with his jawline. But I fixed that, so I might be able to put the light that's on his arm back a little bit more on that side of his face it'll kind of mask that blotchy.
Yeah, to me,
I thought the issue I was having with the jaw was coming from that light, but it wasn't. It was coming from the hiding lights. So
I think it's more about maybe even adding a little bump to the skin could help as well, because it's like I'm trying to find a way to break it up where it doesn't get like when it gets bright it shouldn't get flat. And I guess he has some flat shapes in his design that's causing that. But yeah, I'm just trying to figure out a way to get him brighter without blowing out. With a little, because and it's all about just finding the variation in there.
Could I maybe do a little like more speck on his skin or something so it like the light is a bit brighter, even though it's technically not. It bounces more.
You can try it. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it looks like it's blowing out in the diffuse, so adding a little speck to add up that breakup could help, and like you could keep it at this level, but then it kind of changes the way he looks a little bit. So, but yeah, like actually the addition of speck with the bump would be good too, because then it's not like a plasticky, clean specular highlight on him. It's like it's got some skin texture to it.
Yeah, I had bump on him earlier, but the UV maps are kind of wonky, so the bump wasn't.
Oh, I see.
Working right, but I'll mess with it and see if I can get something.
See what you got. All right, cool.
Okay. But does everything else look good, like as far as the contrasts and stuff, and the lights and the darks and all that stuff?
I think so. Does anybody else have any notes on this for right now?
Oh, I fixed his tie, Diana. Thank you.
Oh, and the money box is better too.
Yeah, and I managed to fix the shadow on the case on the right, and it actually looks more like an arm instead of just like a solid curtain coming down.
Yeah.
It's great stuff.
So.
All right, cool. All right, we're gonna skip Hisham for now, and because Danny's here. All right, Danny, this is looking. it's looking good. I just think that there's a almost like a green haze around the fireplace, and I would just take a little bit of that green out. See if we can just visualize that. I mean, that's a little bit too red, but it's really just in like right in here. There's like a
I was trying to take down the contrast in the fireplace itself, and it turned it green.
I see. So is that? Oh, okay. Huh. Why would it turn green? Oh, okay.
But I guess I can just correct it back and raise the red in that part.
Yeah.
And that should.
Yeah, just suck out some of that green. The other question I have is, how are you guys feeling about the brightness of the bars here? Does that feel a little too bright to you, or are you guys cool with it? Because I was going back and forth in my head.
I think it's too bright. And you added the reflections there too on the window.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like added or something, but it is a little.
Yeah, it looks. You know what? It looks good around the edges here, but on this interior, I would take that down. Because that is
cool.
Yeah, but swords look great. Candles look great. I think everything else is falling into place.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
I also just posted the day scene into the work in progress.
Let's take a look. Okay. This feels very contrasty now.
Oh, okay. That's okay. I know what happened. Okay, never mind. I'll
Yeah.
Because I saved it as a JPEG from Maya, so it came out weird.
Okay.
But a question anyway. Since the main light source is coming from the left from the hallway,
Okay.
and I want to direct the viewer's eye to the fireplace to the swords, but that would be it's more in shadow. It's not as bright.
Yeah.
So, because that's something Jasmine said to me, that her eyes focus the other way. So how can I pull focus?
How'd you do that? Let's think about it. So, I mean,
it is standing out material-wise because it's darker on a brighter background.
but that is going to be an issue with this if we have all the light coming in from the side. I mean, we can tone that down, and like one of the things about display pieces, in fact, let's go back over to this one. And we weren't doing it here, but it's very common in galleries and homes to put a special light source. Although this is like an old scene, so there's no. I was gonna say like, what if there was like some overhead lights that were shining on this? But like that's not realistic because that's not in the era.
What if there was a window, like a sky?
Because I was trying to think of doing it without like completely redoing, but that's kind of the only way to do it, right? We gotta get something on there, and it would have to be like a skylight, would be, and then you can slash some light, like you could either come straight down. I actually think it would be more if it kind of slashed in across, maybe there's a window up there,
Yeah.
and then that allows some light to slash in across that, and then you can do. Like if there's a window, then the window itself could cast like a gobo where like all this is dark, and then this stuff is where the window opening is. It's kind of that's kind of the only way to do it.
And I think that would make the bounce light easier and like a little more believable because the more bulk of the center of the room would be illuminated, the floor.
True.
So then you can just.
And it's not
if
breaking.
You wanted to make it. Oh, I'm sorry. If you wanted to make it look more period kind of accurate, if you can hop around some of the asset websites and see if you can find something that's stained glass looking and push the light through there, then you'll get some color and it'll already be set up to kind of give you that reflective sort of look, and it'll look more like period for a tower room.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if that's the case, then I mean, like, where'd it go? We can even go back to this. And if that's the case, then, because then if you got more light coming here, we could even like tone this down and allow that to stand
Yeah.
out. Because again, this is leading to a questionable area that can be whatever we want it to be, and the suggestion of having the skylight doesn't interfere with the night scene too, because like who knows if there's a light up, like a window up there wouldn't generate any extra light into the room.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah. Cool.
All right.
And last question.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I don't know because I missed the beginning. Did you see my question about rendering the passes all at once?
As AOVs or?
Yeah, I want to set up AOVs and I don't want to do it in render layers because render layers mess stuff up. Yeah. So how can I render everything or stuff that keeps going?
Like what passes do you need though?
Yeah.
What kind?
I have one pass where I only have the candle lights. I have one pass only with the window. One pass only with the hallway.
You can do that with AOVs.
Yeah.
How do you do that with AOVs?
At the bottom of each light.
Yeah.
Arnold tab, there's like a light group where you can type the group and then you can type like candle. And then in the AOVs, you can choose the RGBA and then you can choose the different light groups that you want to like make separate AOVs. I'll send you screens. Because I feel like I'm doing that.
Wait.
Cool.
It's very, very early.
Did not know.
Yeah. Still early for Diana. No, I'm just kidding. That's no, it's that's great. No, that's very true. Because like the more that you can do in the AOVs, the better, because you can do it all in one render go, right? Like
yeah,
you can. It's like doing everything. What it used to be, every render layer would have to render individually, and now with AOVs, you render the scene, and it just breaks out all these things separately. So that's like groups are great for that.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Clarissa will come back. Ayako will come back. Andre, you are here. Okay. So you said something in the words you said, and I wanted to push back. You said that like this was starting over or like restarting this one. It's all progress.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many. I was just talking to an animator about this, about how often I light something, get a feel for it, and then just delete everything and start again as part of like the natural progression of things. So I just don't want you thinking about this as starting over, because this is just the way it goes sometimes. I think the structure of this looks a lot better. I think that it all kind of is playing together a little more nicely. The saturation in the far background is a little strong, like the oranges back here, and but I want you to talk through how this setup is different. Do you just have a couple lights, or what are you working with here?
Yeah, I basically took all the lights out and started with the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I think there's one sun for the outside, one sun for the inside, just so that I could put the outside a little bit brighter. And there's also a bounce card. I don't know how to call that.
Yeah.
In photography, it's a bounce.
Yeah.
Something that is right on, right behind them, or right between the camera and them, so that I can bounce some light back on them from the sun.
Yeah. It's interesting because
And that's it.
It's interesting that this wall gets brighter than this building out here. Right? Like
Yeah.
Like it feels like like this value works for outside the window. And because it actually feels brighter at points inside than it does outside. So I think we just need, like, for now, I would say let's work on flipping that dynamic where like the sidewalk here can get this bright, but and then maybe just bring this down just a touch, but like it's actually fine if this is like this bright on the inside, but I also want to see it outside the window too.
Yeah.
And that's probably, and if it's, and I know you said you have two different lights, but if the values are similar, it might be shader values are different.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, So I would work with that. I do like that the building behind them is casting the shadow, which allows the bright characters to pop over that. I think the structure is working well. If you could like even just duplicate this building or part of it and just fill in this little bit here, I think that would help.
Okay.
Because like I just don't want to see that like additional sliver over there. Yeah, and then so I would work on the brightness discrepancy, bring it up a little bit outside, down a little bit on the inside, and then just the very saturated sky. I would just because it's not matching the look of the lighting, because that is a very red sunsetty sky. And I would go from there. Anybody else have anything for this? Any thoughts? Okay. Yeah, we'll start there. And we'll build up from there. This is good progress. I'm happy about this. All right.
Cool.
Let me go back to there's 3 that we skipped. Mindy, Hisham. So this was a new reference that he found, and he was looking at this for the lighting, and I'm guessing this is color reference and this is like light position reference, because one of the things that he did was now this character's in darkness. It tells a different story when that happens. Like it makes her less excited to see him and more like questioning why he's there, almost like there's something like it changes the story in my head. Like she's not 100% happy and or comfortable with what's going on. And so that was just something I thought when because we now no longer have key light directly hitting her, and that's usually what you do in those scenarios. So it does tell a little bit of a different story now, which is up to you if that's the direction that you want to go. I think in terms of the lighting, I think he looks really good. If this is the lighting direction we go with her, I think she looks good. I would just break up the specular highlight on her arm. It's a little like perfect, and just break it up with like a little like bumpiness on her arm to kind of broaden that specular highlight. In terms of the environment lighting, I think a couple things. One, I would like to see a little bit more light out of the headlight of this car. The fact that we're just seeing like the reflections of bright lights without seeing some of the spit out of those lights, I would just put a little bit of volumetric there. And then in these characters over here, you've got a rim that's hitting this pole. I would just kind of hit a slight bit more like rim light on them, just like not so much that they're standing out, but it builds depth in the scene a little bit if we see them a little bit more. The rest of it's great. Like this is a really, really strong scene. I'm also wondering if we could, I was going to say darken the sky a little bit, although it does tie in well with her hair. It's just, maybe just break it up with a little cloud there, because like there's so much small detail in this scene. Like everywhere we look, there's little shapes, little detail until we get to here. And then it's just like kind of a broad, constant sky color. So I'm wondering if you could maybe ramp that, break it up with a cloud, darken it a little bit, just so we don't quite have that much brightness out there. But yeah, overall this is great. Anybody else want to hop in?
Just a question about the 2 lights that you circled on the back by the car.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are those like lights that are bouncing reflections from the street lights, or are those little separate orbs?
I'm assuming they're reflections
one?
from the headlight and the tail light of the vehicle. So there's a car here.
Yeah, I see.
And
Wouldn't those be kind of more in the front?
Yeah. So that's that's where the read is off to me, is that we're just seeing like these reflections are a little too bright, especially because we don't see the light source itself, right?
Yeah, they would be more. I think it's just they don't look like they're in line with the way the car's pointing.
I think it's right, because like here's the back, like here's a tire, here's the back of the car, and then here's the front of the car, and then this kind of lines up directly underneath where the headlight would be, and then this lines up directly underneath where the tail light would be. So
okay.
It's just that we're seeing the bright reflection without seeing any, and with this much haze and rain, you would pick up a little bit of that.
Oh, okay. It just looked weird, so I was asking.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And then Clarissa.
I have a question about it.
Yeah.
Seeing as how I think she's being hit by a street lamp, and the guy, you could see it hitting all of him. For her, it seems it's only starting from her waist down, and that might be true to the reference, but I think it would be a bit different. And also the way that it moves from light to dark is very abrupt and very, like, the other guy has really nice shaping, but it's very light and dark.
Yeah, it's almost like because of the demonstration of good shaping on him, it's odd. It's almost like, and that's why I was getting the feelings about why it was like there's something sinister going on, or she was uncomfortable. It was like, because clearly there's like an artistic decision at this point to make them feel like they're in kind of different lighting scenarios where, like, again, just looking at their arms, and seeing that she's just like this very small sliver that has hard edges, and he's got this nice fall off. It makes it feel like there's two different things happening. I agree that it would be, if you were playing them as a couple, if you're playing them as like this is a happy reunion, definitely do that. Definitely hit her with some more frontal light, or more light on her face, get the shaping a little softer. It's more about if you're trying to create a connection between them or a separation between them. Does that make sense?
Sorry.
No, good.
One thing that I was looking at it now is that the lamppost in the back, like all the way on the back.
This one here?
Yeah. It what is kind of like confusing me is that the rim light on her, which probably is coming from a lamppost, probably, I don't know, but maybe, looks very green, light blue-green, where the lamppost is very yellow, and his rim light is kind of yellow too.
Yeah.
So shouldn't her rim light also be on the same?
Well, she's got it a little bit back here, and then this is more like from this, like the moonlight, basically. But
his on his forehead, he also has and that one is pretty. On the forehead is pretty yellowish. You know,
that one actually, that might be a screen thing. That one actually comes through a little bit more blue on my end. But you bring up a good point about this light being this color, and you do want it to match, because like if this is a street light, right? And what's lighting them are street lights, the warmer street lights. I think it's totally valid to have that match up more closely with the street light color, because we really don't see the yellow green of this light anywhere else in the scene. So I think it does make more sense to shift that more to an orangey warm hue. That's right.
And also maybe just making the rest of the lamppost a little bit more visible, because it kind of, like when I saw the first time, it looked like the light was floating in midair.
Yeah, that's fair. Like have that light trickle down, or maybe get a little more rim on it or something. Yeah. It's all good. All right, cool. Let's hop over into Clarissa's. So this is an interesting one. So this is the reference of a painting, and then this was the CG version. So this one's, you know, obviously all about scale. And there's something, and I was looking at this, and I think, like looking at the little scuba diver, I think the scuba diver could actually, I'm wondering if it could actually go even a little bit like more contrasty, especially in the darks. Because I like in the original reference how like, oh, that's not what I meant at all. Because I like in the reference how it's mostly silhouetted. And just kind of getting that to read because the diver itself doesn't much matter, but I do like the very, very dark shape on this one. But I like the darkness of this with that little bit of rim like you're getting on yours. The other thing I was thinking with this, because I do think it looks really good and it matches the reference really well, is that, and And again, I'm not quite sure the story that you're telling, but this is definitely a small person and a normal sized shark. And the reason why I think that is because the scale of the blemishes on the shark, the bumps, the things on the nose and kind of coming down the side, all feels like they're made from animals of equal size. You know what I mean? Like they're not small distortions. They're big. They're big bites. They're big scratches that would happen at a larger scale. And I think that because when you're doing like a Godzilla type character, a larger than life character, you scale the skin and the body to have some smaller shapes on it, so the character itself feels larger in the rest of the world. So just something to be aware of there. And then looking at this, I like this rim on the side. I'm wondering if we just couldn't kill that back there, because I do just want to keep the focus here on the forehead. But everything else I think is looking really, really good. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think maybe another thing that could help to sell the idea that this is a big shark and something that is in the painting, maybe about the edge quality, or basically the front of the shark in the painting is quite sharp, quite in focus, while the tail is kind of it's out of focus, let's say. So maybe if she could do the same with the CG version, like reducing the depth of field, because that I think will help to sell the idea that this is like a big shark. Because if you're focusing on the front, the back of the tail will be kind of out of focus, basically.
Yeah, totally agree. That's a good call. All right, cool. But yeah, but other than that, I think you're doing a really good job. All right. And then last and certainly not least, Ayako, I believe this is your first post. I'm sorry to leave you. I always do this. I'm very sorry to leave it until the end. But it's a shame because she's looking great. She looks really, really good. Looking against the reference, it's interesting how blue this light gets on her side. I think that, I actually think that yours is looking a little bit better. The one thing that I am interested by is like the amount of sparkle that's kind of on the edge of her here. I'm not quite sure if that's coming from her skin or because it kind of feels like a low res thing. You can kind of see it in here too in her garments as well. So, but you can, yeah, I'm also seeing it in here too. It feels like there might be some low res or like small samples in the specular highlights, is what I'm feeling. But that being said, I think the overall lighting is good. I do with her collar being this bright, I almost want to feel a little bit more of its influence on her chin, and to get that chin separation there. I think the value of her skin looks really good. I also think there's a chance you could potentially make those white dots on her face pop a little bit more, and get those to read a little bit more cleanly as because I think they're really strong features for her. Yeah, everything else is looking pretty good. And she is a little bit, like, her complexion is a little darker than the skin reference here. But I do want to draw attention to, like, an area that's really nice is looking at and this is true for everybody, like looking at the difference between the specular highlight values of her skin versus her lips. Like, the lips are a little bit tighter, a little bit, whatever these on the skin are just, it's just a little bit more broken up in shape. I think you're kind of getting that there. So, I don't know, I'll open it up. What do you guys think?
I'm wondering if it's maybe the bump is too high.
Yeah, that could be it too. That's a good point.
But
overall, like, I think it's looking.
Yeah.
And then I would
maybe
just.
the eyes are gold.
What's that?
But that's maybe the eyes are too gold.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I was just about to say the same thing. Yeah, this, especially the key side eye, just a little bit too saturated, maybe a little brighter, but it's really good. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, guys, that's it for your Monday. Thank you all for joining in. And so, quick heads up for the rest of the week. We'll do the 11 o'clock Eastern time slot. I'm sorry for the Phoenix folks. You good? Okay. Wednesday, I will not be able to do it. So we'll do Tuesday, Thursday, Friday this week. Wednesday, I'll be able to do some written feedback, but I have more dentist appointment stuff. So I've got that during the day. So not sure how much I'll be able to speak, but we'll go from there. So, all right. I'll talk to you all very soon. Happy lighting, everybody.